Mysterious depths of the world's ocean hide many secrets. It may seem that everything has long since been studied, and anything that sparked even the slightest interest has been brought up to the surface. However, beneath the water's surface, there still lies that which provokes genuine amazement, fear, and even true horror. You are watching the TopFacts channel, and today, in our hour-long show, we will descend to the very bottom of the world's ocean to see its real mysteries with our own eyes. Get ready. It is going to be very interesting. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Some creatures from myth remain only on the pages of legend, while others quite literally leap from those pages into reality. Meet the colossal squid. This is no ordinary seafood delicacy, but a gigantic, slippery entity from the ocean's deepest gloom. Picture a hybrid of an extraterrestrial horror and a marine monster, and you have something that actually exists. The first mention of this sea giant dates back to 1925, and since then, the myths of sea monsters have been taking on real shapes. Scientists rarely manage to see them. These silent giants inhabit the icy, hard-to-reach waters off Antarctica at depths of more than 2 kilometers. Not exactly a spot for a pleasant snorkeling tour. And now, something truly wild. From the beaks that have been found, yes, just like those of a nightmare seabird, researchers suppose that an adult squid may weigh up to 500 kilograms and reach 10 meters in length. That is longer than a school bus and heavier than a concert grand piano. One diver named Steve claimed that he had seen a 10-meter squid and prepared to battle a sea monster, only to discover that the beast was merely half that size. Yet, with its rotating, hook-laden arms, even a small specimen could ruin your day. Colossal squids are like the final boss of the seas, enormous, terrifying, almost mythical. The more we learn about them, the stronger the feeling that the ocean hides its darkest secrets. And if this is what we have already discovered, imagine what else might lurk in the depths. You might think that a 9-meter great white shark is the queen of the ocean, yet even she can become someone's lunch. As part of a study, Australian scientists fitted a tracker to one such shark. Everything was going fine, until the tag disappeared. Several days later, it washed up on shore as if nothing had happened. Then things grew more interesting. The tracker data showed first a sharp rise in temperature, far too high for ocean water, and then a descent to almost 600 meters. Such a temperature spike can mean only one thing. The tag ended up inside another shark, a larger one. After extensive analysis, the researchers came to a shocking conclusion. Their shark had been eaten by another great white around 16 meters long and weighing roughly 2 tons. That is, for a moment, a bus with teeth. Although great whites usually keep their distance from one another, there is one exception: dinner. And sometimes that dinner is one of their own. This case became one of the clearest proofs of cannibalism among sharks. A grim reminder that even apex predators can fall victim. In the ocean depths, it is eat or be eaten by your own kin. Somewhere in the depths off Japan's coast lies a mysterious underwater structure spoken of as a possible Atlantis of the East. Yonaguni. The name has split the archaeological community into 2 camps. Some see it as the greatest find in underwater archaeology, others merely an unusual rock formation. Yet the mystery remains. Right-angled corners, flat surfaces, purported engravings resembling animals, all this suggests the ruins of an ancient civilization. Imagine someone building a giant Lego set right on the seabed. One leading specialist, Professor Masaki Kimura, is convinced these are remnants of a long-lost city. Some even link Yonaguni with the mythical continent of Mu, a drowned land often mentioned alongside Atlantis. If true, the structure could be about 10,000 years old. that is older than your grandmother's favorite cookbook. Of course, definitive conclusions are far off. More excavations, more evidence are needed. But while the enigma remains unsolved, the Yonaguni Monument continues to attract adventurers, divers, and scientists from around the globe. Who knows? Perhaps we are on the brink of a great discovery or simply another wave of new questions. In any case, it is a real mystery hidden in the deep. In 1997, something strange was recorded in the vast Pacific Ocean. A deep, low-frequency sound with great amplitude, so powerful that hydrophones picked it up thousands of kilometers away. It was dubbed Bloop, and it has since become one of the most discussed acoustic phenomena of the ocean. At first, scientists decided that ice masses were scraping the ocean floor. Yet in 2022, NOAA specialist Christopher Fox proposed another hypothesis. What if the sound was made by a gigantic, unknown sea creature lurking in the dark? Time passed, and the mystery only grew. Later, NOAA again revised its version, now attributing it to so-called ice quakes, when huge masses of ice break and create strange sound waves. But here's the intrigue. Even today, no one can say for certain what caused the noise. An iceberg, a marine monster, an underwater cataclysm, all remain theories. And though evidence is scant, the bloop continues to stir the minds of both scientists and conspiracy enthusiasts. Welcome to the most sinister and surreal place underwater, the world of black smokers. These giant hydrothermal vents were discovered in 1976 off the Galapagos Islands. Imagine enormous underwater pipes spewing plumes of black smoke at nearly 3 kilometers depth. The landscape feels like a scene from science fiction where a planet is just forming. Some of these structures reach 60 meters in height. That is like a 20-story building, but on the ocean floor. When superheated water from Earth's crust meets the icy ocean, this menacing smoke is formed. Temperatures? Up to 400 degrees Celsius, enough to sear a steak instantly. Yet despite the extreme conditions, life here not merely exists, it flourishes. Giant worms, shrimp, and mollusks live near the vents, feeding on bacteria that process minerals from the hot plumes. These spots have become true oases in lifeless depths. In 2019, in the very heart of the Pacific Ocean, a troubling incident occurred. A cargo ship needed urgent repairs and an experienced diver descended. At depth, he noticed a massive shadow moving slowly through the water column. The first reaction was, of course, fear. Moments later, everything became clear. It was merely a gigantic swarm of krill. But be honest, would you remain calm if you saw something like that down below? Write in the comments how you would react. Let us raise the intrigue. Now we head to Israel's coast, where beneath the Mediterranean lies Atlit Yam, a submerged Neolithic village between 8,000 and 9,000 years old. Once life bustled here, residents fished, built homes, lived everyday concerns. Then something catastrophic occurred. Scientists believe a volcanic eruption triggered a giant tsunami that overwhelmed coastal settlements. Atlit Yam vanished underwater in a single night. Today, it is an underwater ghost world. Bones lie where ancient streets once were. Burials silently recount stories of bygone generations. For more than 25 years, scientists have excavated this site, finding not mere artifacts, but evidence of daily life. Fish neatly piled in heaps, tools, dwellings, all seemingly frozen in one moment. The remarkable preservation of this city astonishes. It is as if carved from time and hidden beneath the waves. When it seems the ocean has revealed all its strangeness, it plays another trump card, a fish with a transparent head. Yes, this is no fantasy. Meet Macropinna microstoma, more commonly called the Barreleye, a creature that appears to have swum straight out of an alien cartoon. This fish was first described in 1939, yet an actual photograph was only obtained in 2004 thanks to researchers at the Monterey Bay Institute. And when they first saw its transparent, dome-shaped skull, they could not believe their eyes. Inside its head, you can observe two bright green tubular eyes. They move within the skull and can rotate. Normally, they point upward to spot prey overhead, but during hunting, they pivot forward like tiny periscopes. The Barreleye lives at depths of about 600 to 800 meters, where near total darkness reigns. Its eyes are designed to capture the faintest glimmer of light. And although it looks like a horror movie alien, this fish is a unique masterpiece of evolution, proof of how wondrous and unusual nature can be. Ah, the Bermuda Triangle. That stretch between Puerto Rico, Miami, and Bermuda has long been enwreathed in legend. Missing ships, vanishing airplanes, empty vessels with no signs of struggle, all have become part of cultural myth. But let us examine the facts. This is one of the busiest maritime routes on Earth, and the overwhelming majority of vessels and liners pass through without the slightest incident. Nevertheless, oddities do occur. Remember the tale of the ship Ellen Austin. It came upon a drifting vessel devoid of crew. The Ellen Austin sent aboard some of its own sailors and they disappeared. Or the disappearance of the naval ship USS Cyclops with 300 sailors aboard, simply vanished without a trace. Such events feed the mystique. Yet the truth is that most disappearances can be explained by storms, currents, mechanical failures. Still, the thought of a mystery is alluring. The Bermuda Triangle may not be supernatural, but it certainly knows how to play with our imagination. Submarine service is not for the faint-hearted. Steel capsules immersed in the depths where the slightest error can cost lives, and 1968 became the most tragic year in submarine history since the Second World War. Within a single year, 4 submarines from different nations vanished without trace. The American USS Scorpion, the Israeli INS Dakar, the French Minerve, and the Soviet K-129. The total dead, 318 souls. Most chilling is that these disasters occurred in different parts of the ocean within a short span. Searches were conducted with maximum effort, yet despite technology and resources, no definitive answers emerged. Why did these submarines disappear? Equipment failure? Accident? Or an external hand? Some theories even posit other nations' involvement, but documents are classified and details hidden under top secret. The disappearance of these submarines remains one of the ocean's darkest mysteries. Each year, scientists and historians hope, perhaps today, a new clue will surface. In May 2019, a NOAA research team was testing underwater drones in the Gulf of Mexico. All went according to plan until something unexpected appeared on the sonar screen. It was no school of fish, no reef. It was a sunken ship, unknown to anyone. A genuine sensation for the scientific group. They immediately contacted archaeologists worldwide. The investigation was streamed live so everyone could peer into the mystery of the past with them. Only one mark was visible on the ship's hull. The number 21109. Nothing more. No name, no documented history. After studying the structure, scientists concluded that the vessel was likely built roughly 200 years ago, perhaps around 1850. Charred planks inside suggested it may have burned before sinking. Why did it go down? What happened to it? Answers remain elusive. Yet amazingly, this ship is far from alone. The Gulf of Mexico harbors many such wrecks, each with its own story. Using drones and new technology, researchers continued to film and document every corner of the vessel, assembling yet another piece of the great maritime puzzle. We dive into a world where everything grows long, slippery, and eerily mysterious. Meet Leptocephalus giganteus, a rare eel species wrapped in a cloak of the unknown. The name sounds like a spell from a wizard's grimoire, yet behind it lurks one of the ocean's most enigmatic denizens. First described by Anton Brun in 1930 and later by Peter Castle in 1959, this eel has been seen only twice, and both times in larval form. What is astounding, one recorded specimen already measured nearly 2 meters, and that was merely the larva. Considering that most eel larvae represent only 1/32nd of the adult size, one might suppose an adult Leptocephalus could be the length of a train, or of a sea monster unfortunate never to have starred in a Hollywood blockbuster. Of course, skeptics are vigilant. Some scientists suspect we have simply misclassified the creature and that it never grows to such gigantic proportions. Yet the fact remains, we have seen it only twice. It is something rare, unknown, and perhaps frightening. Until someone comes face to face with an adult specimen or accidentally films it, Leptocephalus giganteus remains an underwater enigma, another secret hidden in the ocean's darkest depths. In the early 2000s, off the coast of the Indian state of Gujarat, mysterious underwater ruins were discovered. Fragments of structures and artifacts quickly attracted archaeologists worldwide. Some immediately claimed these were remains of an ancient civilization, but as usual, matters are not so simple. The problem is that instead of careful excavation, a dredging method was used, an abrasive technique that scoops up masses of seabed. This cast doubt on the contextual credibility of the finds. Without an exact location for artifacts, it is hard to grasp their significance. Now, the sensational part. Carbon analysis indicated that some objects may be up to 9,500 years old. That potentially makes them the oldest ruins on Earth. Yet not everyone trusts these numbers. Debates about the accuracy of the dating continue to this day. Some call it the greatest discovery, others an error or even speculation. In 1999, something unusual sounded through the ocean. America's NOAA recorded a mysterious noise lasting roughly 15 seconds. They dubbed it Julia, and in those few seconds it captured the attention of both scientists and conspiracy lovers. There are many theories. The most common, an iceberg collided with the continental shelf off Antarctica. That seems logical. Ice, a crash, vibrations. The snag is that nobody could confirm it. The theory remains an educated guess. Yet Julia stands out not only for its odd nature, but also for its volume. This was no faint splash, but a genuine acoustic shout spreading hundreds of kilometers. Some even suggested it might have been a huge underwater monster unknown to science. Rumors further fanned the flames. NASA satellite images supposedly captured a giant silhouette in Antarctic waters at the very moment Julia sounded, straight from a science fiction film. Sadly, no confirmed images ever surfaced. Thus, the sound remains a mystery, another unanswered whisper of the abyss. In Earth's icy corners, there are phenomena so slow and ominous that only the bravest witness them. One bears the fearsome name Brinicles, or icicle of death, and it is well deserved. Everything starts when saline water drains from sea ice and sinks. Colder than its surroundings and laden with salt, it forms a freezing stream, like an icy hose descending to the sea floor. This finger-shaped flow freezes everything it touches. Any marine creature that fails to swim away instantly becomes a frozen statue. This is no metaphor. Cameras have actually captured sea stars and other organisms freezing solid in the Brinicles' icy grip, as though nature itself decided to play the Cold Reaper. Such a phenomenon is difficult to observe in reality, too remote, too cold. Yet, thanks to underwater cameras and new technologies, we can at least glimpse this eerie and majestic dance of nature. The Brinicle reminds us that the deep sea obeys its own laws. Beauty and death walk hand in hand there. Sea monsters are not merely inventions of ancient legend. Among all the krakens and leviathans, there was one true king of the ocean, the Megalodon. Even its teeth inspire awe. Up to 7 centimeters long, they are the only physical proof of this gigantic shark's existence. It is believed that a megalodon grew to 18 meters in length and weighed up to 60 tons. That is like several buses fused together. No complete skeleton has been found. Its bones were cartilaginous and do not preserve like those of dinosaurs. Yet from scattered finds, scientists have reconstructed its likely appearance, a genuine predator of the depths. Most specialists are sure megalodons died out millions of years ago. Yet some remain convinced they might still lurk somewhere out there in the darkest, unexplored corners of the ocean. Programs like Shark Week only stoke the interest. Though there is no evidence, the ocean truly is full of surprises. Who would have thought the coelacanth, or the megamouth shark, once presumed extinct, would again meet human eyes? So until we have clear answers, the megalodon lives on, in fears, legends, and perhaps in the deepest abyss. In 2011, during an underwater expedition in the Baltic Sea, a team of divers encountered something strange. A rounded object with a flat top that resembled a Star Wars ship, straight out of the Millennium Falcon. The internet soon filled with theories of extraterrestrial origin. Geologists, however, quickly cooled such fantasies. They pointed out that nature is perfectly capable of creating such shapes. The world is full of rock formations that look like alien artifacts. And given the low-detail sonar imaging, determining the object's true nature is difficult. Yet the enigma persists, and it raises an important question. How little do we know about our own oceans? We have explored the moon's surface far better than the depths of our seas. If one strange object provokes such debate, imagine what else may lie beneath: cities, creatures, ships of the past. At about 1,000 meters depth in the Gulf of Mexico lurks a sinister mystery, the underwater lake known as the Jacuzzi of Despair. Despite its inviting name, this place is more a death sentence than a resort. Here, everything is reversed. Water does not save, it kills. Temperatures in this jacuzzi range from 8 to 19 degrees, fairly warm by ocean standards. But the issue is not the degrees. The water's composition, with high salt, methane, and hydrogen sulfide, turns it into a lethal trap. Any fish entering is doomed. The toxin concentration kills instantly. This mini lake is only 10 meters wide, yet its impact is grand. For marine life, it is a death zone. For scientists, a source of unique knowledge. Studying such an extreme environment may yield clues to whether life could exist on other planets. If organisms can survive here, then perhaps they can survive in harsher worlds. Thus, this jacuzzi is not merely a marine curiosity, but a window into other realms. In 2015, not far from Athens, during a routine search for ancient pottery, archaeologists stumbled upon something far grander: the remains of an entire sunken city. And not just a settlement, but a fortified Bronze Age metropolis. The ruins spread over 12 acres, larger than many modern neighborhoods. Most striking was one of the most advanced defensive systems found in ancient Greece. Guard towers, massive walls, all pointed to a high level of organization and, perhaps, frequent threats. Then, suddenly, everything vanished. The city seemed to dissolve in time. What happened? Was it attacked? Did nature take its toll? For now, that remains a mystery. Yet, the discovery is already considered one of the most impressive archaeological sensations of recent years, further proof that we have yet to grasp the true scale of the past. Sailors' tales abound with mysteries, singing sirens, strange lights, ghost ships. Yet one of these stories turned out not to be fiction, but a scientific phenomenon. Enter the mysterious occurrence known as the Milky Sea effect. Imagine sailing on a dark ocean when vast stretches of water begin to glow with a soft, white-blue light. The sea appears covered with a luminous veil. It seems as though the ocean itself has become a glowing canvas. And this is no fantasy, but reality. The cause is bioluminescent bacteria capable of emitting light. They form entire colonies, and when conditions align, they begin to shine simultaneously, turning the sea into a genuine light show. Thanks to modern satellite technology, we have finally confirmed that the effect truly exists. Yet what still eludes us is what exactly triggers this mass flash. What switch prompts billions of bacteria to turn on their inner lanterns? There is no answer yet. It may be linked to chemical changes in the water, to temperature or pressure. There are many theories. But one thing is certain: the Milky Sea effect is further proof that the ocean holds truly magical secrets, and we are only beginning to unravel them.
Observing this encounter was both chilling and mesmerizing. It seems that under the water, we may be met by beings capable of astonishing even the most seasoned explorers. A calm day on Praia Grande Beach changed when the waves washed something strange ashore. Its face resembled a hybrid of a dog and a goat, and its pale, bloated skin inspired fear. People backed away in horror until someone identified the creature as a black-spotted triggerfish that had simply died and been washed up on the beach. This case makes us think about how ocean pollution is exterminating marine life and what other unusual guests may appear on our shores. In one of the Norwegian fjords, workers at a fish farm came across a creature reminiscent of a character from old tales. It was a strange jellyfish with 12 stiff tentacles growing from its bell-shaped body. They call it peril, and like mythical vampires or trolls, it cannot stand sunlight. But in the total darkness of the depths, this creature can emit its own glow, changing colors as if dancing in the underwater gloom. The ocean depths are filled with beings that could rival the heroes of fantastic legends. In the cold waters near Homer, Alaska, fishermen hauled up a strange creature with peculiar patterns on its body. It desperately tried to return to the depths, and its appearance resembled a sharp-toothed wolf. Someone guessed it might be a wolf eel or a wolffish, but its features were even more mysterious. Fins like ears, a mysterious pattern on its face. After taking a few photographs, the fishermen released it back into the sea, understanding that they had encountered one of the rarest denizens of the northern depths. Off the western coast of Japan, divers witnessed the majestic dance of one of the most elusive ocean dwellers, a giant squid with pale skin and reddish patterns. Usually, these creatures are only found washed up dead on beaches, but this time, they were able to observe a living giant in its natural habitat. One of the divers seized the moment, approached, and recorded these images, revealing to the world the true beauty of a legendary creature about which we previously knew only from accidental encounters. To this day, an incredible number of the most astonishing underwater discoveries have been recorded. In one such case, in the warm waters off the coast of Lower California in Mexico, fishermen in the year 2014 noticed something strange floating on the surface. At first, it seemed to them like a large dark mass with white spots, but as they drew closer, they realized they were looking at two newborn whale calves. The peculiarity was that these little ones turned out to be conjoined twins of a gray whale. Their length reached about 4 meters and their weight about 1/2 ton. Even the most experienced scientists, who had dedicated their entire lives to studying marine life, were astonished. Such a sight had never before been seen in Mexico. Scientists have always believed that they knew almost all the ocean inhabitants, but some new finds forced them to seriously reconsider. Imagine a diver descending into the darkest depths, where only the rarest of light flickers. There, he encounters a creature so unusual that it could be taken for a visitor from another planet. It was a gigantic squid-like being with huge fins, much larger than the length of its body, and long tentacles reaching about 7 meters. Gracefully gliding through the water, this being resembled extraterrestrials from science fiction stories. When the diver approached close enough and took photographs, the world was given its very first opportunity to see this rarest inhabitant of oceanic silence. At a depth of about 2 miles under the Antarctic ice, a group of researchers made one of the most breathtaking discoveries. They managed to find the legendary ship Endurance, which sank more than 107 years ago. On its deck once stood the brave explorer Ernest Shackleton, who became trapped in the ice in the year 1915 during an expedition to the South Pole. Thanks to the use of special underwater robots, the vessel was found in remarkably good condition. The icy water had almost perfectly preserved the wood, maintaining the ship's nearly pristine appearance. Off the coast of Israel, right near the shores, fearsome warriors once marched. And now, after about 900 years, in October of the year 2021, a diver stumbled upon an unusual find: an iron sword covered with marine deposits. Its length was about 3 feet. Scientists believe that this artifact belonged to a medieval knight from the time of the Crusades. Now, experts will clean the blade of centuries-old incrustations, attempt to find hidden details or inscriptions, and then the sword will take its place of honor in a museum, telling people today about forgotten chapters of history. When an underwater drone was sent into the dark depths, no one expected to see something so strange. The camera showed giant eye sockets among unrecognizable skeletal fragments. As it turned out, these were the remains of a huge shark. Over time, bacteria had destroyed the bones, turning them into a nutrient substrate for marine plants. In this way, nature itself reminds us of the cycle of life. Once a formidable predator, it became the foundation of a new ecosystem. The decayed remains nourishing other deep-sea inhabitants and supporting the ocean's astonishing balance. A team of divers set out to examine an animal carcass on the seabed, but instead of the expected sight, they encountered a creature whose appearance seemed eerily human. It had a triangular head, a huge maw, and, most strangely, a face with almost human features. The creature neither fled nor hid, nor did it show fear of humans. It seemed to be studying them as intently as they were studying it. Many centuries ago, ships plied the waves of the Baltic Sea, decorating their prows with carved figures resembling monsters. And now, off the coast of Sweden, divers discovered a wooden sea monster that had been hidden under the waves for hundreds of years. This carved masterpiece was part of the ship of King Hans of Denmark, which sank in the year 1495. The creature's head resembled a lion with the jaws of a crocodile holding a human. Frozen in time, the artifacts seem to return to remind us of bygone glory and the brutality of maritime expeditions. At a depth of about 2,700 feet, the remotely operated camera recorded a colossal skeleton stretching nearly 100 feet. These bones did not match any known species. They were too large for ordinary whales, and their structure posed a true puzzle. One paranormal researcher suggested they might be the remains of an ancient dragon we have long forgotten. This finding proves that the deep ocean is full of riddles for which we currently have no answers. A camera surveying the depths near an oil rig caught the unexpected appearance of a colossal creature. Its outline resembled a mosasaur from legends or prehistoric films, with powerful jaws and a long body. When the video went online, viewers wondered, could ancient predators still hide in the ocean depths? Is it really so impossible that creatures surviving for millions of years might remain concealed below while we know only the surface of their world? Off the coast of Madagascar, a diver discovered a strange object, an enormous helmet that could fit a human inside. When he posted the video, the boldest guesses began. Some claimed it was a relic of an ancient civilization or a giant's artifact. Others that it might be unusual equipment from a forgotten age, possibly an ancient diving helmet. One way or another, this massive discovery reminded us that the ocean depths are a storehouse of unfathomable enigmas and treasures yet to be unraveled. While exploring the seabed near the Philippines, a diver came upon a strange cluster of bones. At first, he mistook them for a rock, but upon closer examination, he saw a huge skeleton. The size of the bones and their ancient appearance made him think of a Leviathan, a legendary sea monster. Perhaps it was only a large ancient whale, but the very suggestion of encountering a legend encourages us to wonder what other secrets remain undiscovered. Even if it is not a Leviathan, the found skeleton may help us learn more about the large creatures that once inhabited the ocean in distant epochs. Japanese sailors once told stories of strange giant white creatures seen in the icy waters of Antarctica. When such beings were once captured on video, they were called Ningen. They reached a length comparable to that of a bus and had human-like outlines, arms, legs, and even fingers. However, some insist they saw fins or a tail instead of limbs. Many first believed it was a submarine, but the creature's movement convinced everyone it was alive. Thus, the Antarctic oceans gained yet another mystery. During torrential rains, residents of Thailand noticed a strange dark creature with long, writhing tentacles crawling out of flooded waters. People watched it with curiosity and fear, trying to understand whether it was an ancient monster or a rare beast straying in from the forest. Before anyone could get a good look, it slipped away and disappeared. Perhaps it was just an unknown to science species of animal, but the unsettling thought of ancient legends coming to life continues to trouble the mind. Off the coast of La Palma in Spain, the ocean depths hold a grim reminder of tragedy. At about 20 meters deep lies an underwater cemetery erected in memory of 40 monks who perished in the year 1570 when French pirates seized their ship and threw them overboard. Stone crosses established about 20 years ago mark this place of sorrow. Tourists, unaware of this underwater memorial, swim overhead without suspecting the grim stories preserved by the depths. An underwater robot recorded mysterious red lights in the black waters near Monbay. At a depth of about 1,729 feet, it came upon a strange shadow. As it approached, the robot illuminated a creature with a gleaming body, huge jaws, and sharp teeth. It turned out to be a dragonfish, a deep-sea predator whose red eyes glowed in the darkness. It uses its bioluminescence to lure prey, enticing it right into its jaws. Thus, even in pitch-black darkness, the underwater world is both inventive and merciless. A drone flying over the waves accidentally captured something strange, a creature swimming like a human, using its front limbs and unusual fins. Moreover, it had not one but two tails, resembling the images of Shilanagigs from ancient legends. This is yet another of those mysterious videos that make us believe in the existence of mermaids or, at the very least, some mysterious human-like marine beings. On an animal channel, they showed a strange creature that looked like a thick underwater cucumber. It was a sea cucumber, capable of astonishing with its internal adaptations. It drew in water through a special opening, passing it through peculiar chambers where tiny underwater lungs extracted oxygen. But this was not just a breathing mechanism. Along with the water, the sea cucumber consumed nutrient particles, obtaining additional food. Nature always finds an elegant way to combine multiple functions in a single organism. A group of divers in Taiwan encountered an extremely rare event. They saw a living oarfish, a creature that usually hides at unimaginable depths. Usually, these inhabitants are only seen dead, washed up on beaches. This time, the divers not only saw it alive, but were also able to touch it. The length of this oarfish reached 36 feet. In olden times, sailors took it for a sea monster. Now we have proof that reality can sometimes be no less astonishing than legends. At a depth of about 5,000 feet below the surface of the Gulf of Mexico, an oil camera recorded a strange, translucent blob. The creature resembled a large umbrella, softly glowing in the darkness. Scientists spent 2 years studying the footage before they confirmed. This was the extremely rare jellyfish Deepsteria reticulum. Its appearance is so unusual that at first, many took it for an unknown anomaly. Sometimes, even familiar life forms can turn out to be an astonishing mystery. On the 4th of July on Pompo Beach in Florida, vacationers witnessed a scene they initially mistook for an encounter with a mythical being. A large figure with flippers flickering in the waves caused panic, but it turned out to be merely two marine manatees entwined with each other and washed ashore by a wave. These sea cows were not in danger and eventually managed to return to the water. This chance meeting offered a rare opportunity to see these peaceful giants so close. In the inky darkness of the ocean, the underwater camera recorded two bright lights. A flash of light revealed a giant figure, as if the sea god Triton were battling a monster. But as soon as the light faded, the creature vanished into the depths, as if aware it was being observed. It is unknown what the camera saw, an ancient giant or just a rare marine animal. The fact remains, in the depths dwell beings that can avoid human eyes for hundreds of years. During an underwater photo shoot, two friends never suspected their shot would become a true sensation. While one posed, right behind him swam two strange creatures with long necks and flat fins. They glided smoothly and confidently, ignoring the human who had disturbed their peace. In the end, the photograph captured a unique moment that people recount with both awe and puzzlement. At a depth of about 3,700 feet in the Indian Ocean, a remotely operated camera recorded a truly magical sight. At first, it was an unclear drifting object, but then it swiftly transformed into a being with a smooth, pouch-like body and tentacles equipped with tiny stinging cells. According to descriptions, it resembled a black cannonball with stinging tentacles. Scientists were baffled. Perhaps this is a rare type of jellyfish possessing unique methods of camouflage or defense. At great depth, where eternal darkness reigns, a diver witnessed a rare phenomenon: the relationship between two anglerfish. The tiny male was literally fused to the huge female, becoming her permanent companion and sperm donor. This footage shocked viewers. In response, someone showed another video of a giant anglerfish with huge antennae and an impressive maw. This fish has small eyes adapted to dim light and sharp teeth. In the darkness of the ocean, any light or strange adaptation is a key to survival. A diver off the coast of Bali encountered a creature resembling an alien being, 13 legs, a transparent head, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. He filmed it and posted the recording, sparking a flurry of hypotheses. Some thought it a sea cucumber or a distant relative of starfish. Scientists explained that it was a sea slug called Mbavarius, capable of growing to the size of a school ruler and using its transparent head like a net to catch prey. The ocean is full of creatures that can baffle even seasoned researchers. One fisherman was astonished when his nets brought up a fish with thick lips and noticeable teeth resembling human ones. At first, he thought it was a mutant, but later realized it was merely an adult triggerfish. Nature knows how to surprise. Sometimes natural features look so strange that we are ready to believe in fantastical transformations. Exploring Australia's coral reefs, a marine biologist noticed a large shadow in the water. It resembled a human swimmer, but upon approaching, he saw something incredible. A creature resembling a mermaid glided easily through the water. The scientist froze, not wanting to scare off the mysterious inhabitant. Underwater, everything may not be what it seems. A diver almost touched a cute-looking marine sponge that resembled ping-pong balls, but he remembered in time that the ping-pong sponge is a deadly predator covered with tiny hooks. Victims caught by these traps can never escape. The sponge slowly digests its prey. This incident reminds us, outward harmlessness can be deceptive. In the rainy forests of Sabah in Malaysia, divers stumbled upon a grim underwater crypt, a cave filled with turtle shells. One might think turtles lay eggs on the beach, so why were they found in these dark, cavernous depths? And why did many of the shells belong to hatchlings that never emerged? Researchers are puzzled by this mystery. Was it a result of a disaster or a sign of an ancient, unknown species of turtles dwelling in underwater labyrinths? The question remains open. Where the Titanic rests, no skeletons remain. The bones dissolve quickly at that depth. But hundreds of pairs of shoes stand silent guard to the tragedy. Researchers have seen women's shoes next to children's boots, and nearby they have discovered mirrors and personal belongings among the cabin debris. All these remind us that the Titanic was not just a ship, but a home for many people traveling toward their fate. Researchers were amazed as they studied recordings from an underwater camera when they saw something resembling a human face and a strange body. The creature held its mouth wide open, revealing teeth, and resembled a mythical siren. According to legends, sirens lived on islands and lured sailors with their voices to drown them. Although this is just speculation, the very thought of encountering a legend is both frightening and captivating. Not only in the sky, but also under the water can one encounter phenomena reminiscent of alien ships. On the bottom of the Baltic Sea, the Ocean X team discovered a huge circular object at about 90 meters depth. It had straight edges and sharp angles, uncharacteristic of natural formations. Scientists argue, is it the remains of an ancient building, a fallen unidentified flying object, or simply an unusual rock formation? In any case, the Baltic Sea has added yet another mystery to the list of unexplained phenomena. On the seabed off the coast of Aqaba in Jordan lies a Lockheed L-1011 TriStar airplane, stuck in the depths like a frozen image of the past. When a brave diver descended inside, he saw old seats covered with algae and coral. Exploring further, he encountered a skeleton, a silent witness to a tragedy. Who was this person, and why did they remain here forever? This sunken airliner guards secrets that history has yet to reveal. In the warm tropical waters, a tourist noticed a strange plantation. Hundreds of slender creatures peeking out from the sandy bottom. Upon closer inspection, It turned out to be garden eels, exposing only the tops of their bodies to catch passing plankton. Together, they formed a living, swaying meadow, reminiscent of a delicate underwater garden. At a depth of about 2,000 feet in the waters of Monterey Bay, researchers observed for the 8th time in history a remarkable fish with a transparent head, a Barreleye. Through its crystal-clear dome, one can observe the movements of its eyes, which help it spot prey in almost complete darkness. Most trains rush along rails, but off the coast of the Sinai Peninsula, in the northern waters of the Red Sea, on the seabed lie parts of trains from the British ship Thistlegorm of the Second World War era. It carried military equipment, trucks, motorcycles, and 2 steam locomotives intended to assist British forces in Egypt. The ship never reached its destination, and now its remains attract divers from around the world, offering a journey through time where history is frozen beneath the waves. The legendary Titanic is known to all, but few know that bacteria living in the depths are slowly destroying its remnants. In June of 2004, 20 years after the previous visit, researchers descended once again. They discovered that special bacteria, Honus titanic, were converting iron into rusty stalactites, corroding the metal structures. Over the intervening years, decks and masts had significantly collapsed. Thus, nature gradually erases even humanity's grandest creations.
Deep under the crystal-clear waters of Bimini Island in the Bahamas lies a mysterious geological formation known as the Road to Atlantis. This object, discovered by divers in 1968, resembles a gigantic underwater causeway stretching 800 meters. Flat limestone blocks laid so evenly that a giant vehicle could drive over them. Scientists have debated whether this phenomenon is natural or man-made evidence of the ancient Atlantis. Everyone loves mysterious legends. People want to believe that the Atlanteans really inhabited the Earth. Experts tried to find scientific justification, and radiocarbon analysis revealed that approximate age of these stones ranged from 5 to 12,000 years old. The composition of the slabs also surprised. Limestone and the slate in their natural form are not found in the Bahama Islands. Although obvious traces of mechanical processing of the slabs can no longer be distinguished, predictions of psychics were found, claiming that in 1968, the road to Atlantis would be found. Of course, 10,000 years of water erosion can wear down any stone, but none of the hypotheses are supported by the government of the Bahamas, and excavations are prohibited due to the possible harm to the ecosystem. What do you think? Is Atlantis a myth or an ancient story? Polynesian stone statues moai, carved by the native inhabitants of Polynesia, are found throughout the smaller eastern island. This piece of land, lost in the southeastern part of the Pacific Ocean, is world famous, no less than Egypt with its pyramids or Stonehenge in England. These huge idols of volcanic rock embody the spirit of an ancestor who protects the island. However, it turned out that they protected the land, not only on land, but also underwater. Divers repeatedly encounter such statues at the bottom of the ocean. How did these colossi end up there? Considering the weight and size, it is hard to imagine that they were placed there intentionally. But on the other hand, what cataclysms could have submerged the statues? Perhaps they were submerged there as a part of a ritual and designated as underwater sentinels of the gods. At least divers claim that the statues seem to watch them. The underwater sculpture park was opened in the waters of Molinaire Bay on the island of Grenada in 2006. British artist Jason Taylor placed his sculptures there. Since then, it has become one of the most unusual attractions for divers. 65 sculptures depict various life-size people and are made from environmentally friendly materials to blend in with the environment. Some of them look quite eerie, like this circle of figures holding hands. Moreover, the whole landscape is quite surrealistic, and underwater, the imagination can add fantastic images with tragic plots. Corals and marine life colonize the exhibits as part of their ecosystem and gradually transform the ghostly park into an artificial reef. In China's Zhejiang province lies the Lake of 1,000 Islands, a man-made creation not so long ago. In 1959, authorities decided to build a hydroelectric power station there and erected a dam on the Jinan River. This required flooding an area where two magnificent ancient cities were located. Thus, they turned into a mysterious underwater kingdom, and the lake gained its 1,000 islets. An extraordinary, somewhat frightening spectacle unfolds underwater. The history of the ancient lion city, original name Xichang, dates back to the Eastern Han Dynasty, which ruled from 25 to 200 AD. It was a lively provincial center, and its architecture consisted of grandiose stone structures. 6 streets were guarded by 5 gates, and the houses were richly decorated with stone carvings of lions, phoenixes, and dragons. The craftsman of the builders gives us an understanding of the cultural richness of that area, and the water under which the city is buried performs well its conserving function, preserving the city from erosion and decay. Divers have a splendid opportunity to enjoy intriguing journeys through ancient China, lying underwater at a depth of 40 meters. The coast of Florida is known as the Treasure Coast. Underwater hunters have been long drawn to this place. Historical records have preserved information about many ships sunk there, carrying gold and treasures, the capital of the colonizers. Legends of the sunken treasures kept this team of divers awake, and in 2015, their efforts were richly rewarded. A 300-year-old treasure awaited them at the bottom. Rare gold coins, relics from a sunken Spanish galleon, a unique collection from the early 18th century, were valued at $1 million. So, it remains to guess, was it the insatiable thirst for treasure that once provoked the wrath of the elements and sank the ship? Or was it one of these diver guys, born with a wetsuit, to become the lucky owner of a legacy, an immeasurable treasure from the time of colonial expansion? In 2015, the American search company Sea Search Armada discovered a wrecked ancient ship. Presumably the same legendary Spanish 64-gun galleon, San Jose, which sank in 1708. It carried untold treasures on board, gold, silver, emeralds, which never reached Spanish King Philip V from the New World. The heavy load of 7 million pesos, not counting smuggled goods, hindered the ship's maneuverability. The British fleet attacked the overloaded ship and sank it as an enemy. Otherwise, the funds would have gone to finance the war against England. In this battle, not only the treasure perished, the gold dragged approximately 600 souls to the bottom. The treasures remained at home off the coast of Colombia. One can imagine how many attempts have been made over the past 300 years to find it. However, the question of who owns these treasures is quite controversial. Legal disputes can be prolonged, as there is much to share. Approximately, the precious cargo is valued at $17 billion. The ship Esmeralda, part of the flotilla of the legendary Portuguese Vasco da Gama, suffered a shipwreck in 1503, caught in a strong storm in the Arabian Sea during his second voyage to India. The captain was the uncle of the famous navigator Vicente Sodre, and the fleet of ships was transporting goods and treasures by the sea route around Africa in the Indian Ocean. The route through the waters of 2 oceans was treacherous. From the early 16th century, over 150 years, 219 ships were lost on the Indian Sea route. The biggest mystery from experts is the identification of the already sunken debris. Among the items discovered on the Esmeralda were ship bells, astrolabes, gold coins, and arms, all vividly describing the navigation methods and military strategy of the time. And about the trade exchange between Europe, Africa, and Asia can be judged from the remains of spices, textiles, and precious metals found. The crash site of the Esmeralda was discovered in 1998 near the island of Al Halania. It is now the territory of Oman. 15 years later, underwater research began and the ship's contents were studied in detail. It was established that it was indeed the Esmeralda, and it was the oldest of all the ships found from the era of the great geographical discoveries. An amazing discovery was made by the Odyssey expedition at the bottom of the North Atlantic. They found a treasure aboard a ship that sank in 1941. The British ship Garsopa was carrying a precious cargo from India to England, 7,000 silver bars, weighing 48 tons. The ship fell victim to a torpedo fired by a German submarine and sank to a depth of about 4,700 meters near the Irish city of Galway. Everyone on board perished, except for the captain's assistant. Its wreckage was discovered in 2011 by the Advanced Equipment Company, and special robots were required to lift the cargo from such a depth. This find became one of the largest batches of silver raised from the bottom and excited treasure hunters. Having lain there for 70 years, the bars were not at all spoiled by the seawater and were taken to a storage facility in London. Thistlegorm. That was the name of the British armed cargo ship, whose name in the now Gaulish language means blue thistle, and whose fate was tragic. The magnificent ship sank on October 6, 1941, in the Red Sea off the coast of Egypt, bombarded by German bombers. The ship was transporting supplies for the Allies, and now it is a time capsule on the seabed. In this underwater museum, trucks, motorcycles, rifles, and even train carriages are preserved untouched. Despite decades underwater, these war remnants are excellently preserved. They are parked in neat rows awaiting their guests, divers. Coral have covered the structure, and schools of fish swim darkly through the corridors, creating a striking contrast. A silent, tragic war scene has become a refuge for marine fauna. These ghost trains really rest on the ocean floor near the coast of New York. This unique and captivating sight, a cemetery of ancient steam locomotives underwater, is not an illusion, but a real collection of Planet 222 model locomotives, which were made in the 1850s. How they ended up in the ocean is a mystery, but there are two theories. The barge carrying them crashed in a storm. Also, it might have been an insurance scam, or a simply unwise way of disposal. This submerged museum was opened to the world in the 1980s by diver Paul Helper, and now we have a chance to be a rare visitor to this gallery. Tona's Heraklion, once a thriving ancient Egyptian city, now rests in the depths of the Mediterranean Sea near the mouth of the Nile. This metropolis, founded around the 8th century BC and lost for centuries, was rediscovered in the early 2000s. At its prime, it was a bustling port, a trade center between Egypt and Greece. The import of grain, fragrances, papyrus, and the export of silver, copper, wine, and oil made it wealthy enough to adorn its massive temple buildings with numerous statues and columns. The city gained fame and might on a cosmopolitan scale. In the 2nd century BC, an earthquake occurred, and since then, irreversible landscape changes began. The gradual rise in water level and erosions of the islands, sand and mudflats, led to the complete flooding of Heraklion. A joint Egyptian-French underwater mission conducted excavations of the Abu Qir Bay near Alexandria and discovered a range of treasures, remnants of a warship destroyed in the earthquake, a rich burial complex, statues of gods and goddesses. It is assumed that they belong to Heraklion. Now archaeologists can recreate the historical appearance of the city. In 2001, upon discovering the ancient city of Heraklion in Egyptian Alexandria, in addition to the remains of buildings and urban planning, tombs were also found in the submerged ruins. The burials of Egyptian and Greek nobility are located in an area that in ancient times belonged to Greek merchants. A large burial mound was about 60 meters long and 8 meters wide, and inside were found valuable offerings. For instance, numerous statuettes of Osiris, the ancient Egyptian god of fertility, and jewelry. The gravestones adorned with inscriptions and carvings, and massive 5-meter statues date back to the 2nd century BC. But what interests scientists the most is a certain secret room where traces of burning and untouched offerings remain, baskets with fruits and oils. Clearly, a strange ritual was conducted there, after which the room was sealed for hundreds of years. Apparently, a spirit guarding the tomb's treasures was locked inside. Scientists are still searching for answers. The ancient city of Neapolis, a thriving ancient Roman port, spent centuries underwater before being rediscovered in 2017. Incredible natural disasters that struck the Roman Empire buried the city in the sea depths. Neapolis was flooded by a tsunami in the 4th century AD, as described by Roman historians. But the exact location of the city and its ruins remained a mystery for a long time. The well-thought-out urban planning recently discovered in northeast Tunisia included wide streets, large buildings, and over 100 tanks for the production of garum, a fermented fish sauce. This sauce was a staple in Roman cuisine at the time and gives us an insight into the scale of the industry. The entire ancient city found is a treasure in itself. In 2007, divers made a revolutionary discovery while exploring an extensive network of underwater caves in Mexico on the Yucatan Peninsula. They found the remains of an ancient human. This skull was 13,000 years old and became one of the oldest artifacts ever discovered on Earth. Possibly, they were the first inhabitants of the continent, representatives of the Maya. During their time, the last glacial period, the sea level was significantly lower, and these caves could have served as common dwellings. Moreover, the skull was covered with limestone from rainwater. This means that the remains got into the cave long before it was flooded 9,000 years ago. The stable temperature and lack of sunlight helped better preserve the artifacts. Diving techniques were carefully thought out to maximize the preservation of the find, so archaeologists were able to thoroughly study the lifestyle of the first Americans, their migration paths, and ways of surviving in harsh conditions. Deep in the cold waters of the Arctic, jellyfish-like organisms are encountered, a strange sight in the underwater world. They are completely transparent, and only long tentacles reveal them as jellyfish. The Arctic jellyfish is a vivid example of the diversity of life that thrives even in the most extreme conditions of the planet. Their semi-transparent dome allows seeing the internal structure. Long tentacles allow successful hunting, and the size can vary. Strangely enough, Arctic waters provide them with an ideal environment. The diet of the Arctic jellyfish usually consists of plankton and small fish. They capture prey using stinging cells. The combination of delicate structure and predatory habit illustrates the way of survival in the world of nature perfectly. On June 14, 2019, a diver explored the southwest coast of England and encountered a rare and amazing creature. He was lucky to see a giant jellyfish the size of a human. The barrel jellyfish is the largest species of jellyfish, over 1 meter in size, living in the northern waters. But it is extremely rare to see a specimen of such dimensions, let alone swim alongside it. The appearance of such jellyfish near the coasts can be an indicator of changes in the ocean. For example, due to fishing and water pollution, they can reach an incredible size. However, these creatures are not harmless. The burn of their poisonous stinging cells is like boiling water, covers extensive areas on the skin, and can take several years to heal. In the depths of the ocean, where almost no sunlight penetrates, live some of the most peculiar creatures, giant isopods. They resemble at once characters from a science fiction movie, huge armadillos and spiders. In reality, their closest relatives are shrimps and crabs. The body of the isopod is enclosed in a hard shell, equipped with step-like legs and complex eyes capable of seeing something at such depths. These creatures are found in the cold waters of the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, and inhabit depths from 170 to 3,000 meters, and their huge size, up to 30 centimeters in length, is the result of deep-sea gigantism, where animals grow much larger than their shallow water counterparts. The Christmas tree worm is not a household pest, but a dweller of ocean depths, named so for its unusual appearance. Diving among the colorful coral reefs, one can admire the variety of their shades. The spiral shape of their bodies with bristles indeed resembles a Christmas tree, and when they gather in colonies, the reef is speckled with blue, yellow, and white, as if decorated for Christmas with gifts. Christmas tree worms are most active at night when the water is calm. Their bristles create a small current and twist food inside. Plankton and other microorganisms get caught on these fine sensors. These worms are cleaners, vital to their ecosystem, and undoubtedly present an interesting spectacle for divers. Goblin sharks are elusive, rarely encountered during shallow water dives. Typically, this bottom-dwelling predator inhabits depths from 250 to 1,000 meters, where there is little to no sunlight. And other residents use their own electricity. The prehistoric appearance of these sharks seems terrifying, as they use their elongated, flattened snout to search for the electrical fields of prey, and their jaws can instantly expand to capture food. Thus, the goblin shark has adapted to life in the darkness and cold. Their population is low due to low reproductive capacity, and conversely, finding a suitable mate in such conditions is not easy. Oh, my dear goblin, where are you? Luxurious parties, nightlife, and the pursuit of pleasure. These are not modern inventions, but the realities of Roman Empire society. Ancient Roman aristocracy loved entertainment so much that they built an entire city dedicated to it, an ancient prototype of modern Las Vegas. This place was exclusively for leisure, a resort for the wealthy and famous Romans located on the northeast shore of the Bay of Naples, and it was called Baiae. The city was renowned for its beautiful landscapes and luxurious villas. With a cult of hedonism, enjoyment of life in all its forms reigned supreme. It attracted noble figures such as Julius Caesar and Nero. Philosophers and poets like Seneca and Cicero condemned Baiae as a place of idleness and immorality. The city of secrets hid the luxurious homes of the celebrities of the time, and its extravagant feasts and scandalous activities caught the attention of the emperor, with Caligula even building a residence here. In 39 AD, he constructed a floating bridge across the bay for a grand show. This flamboyant city seemed to be punished by nature itself. Due to the slow shifts in the Earth's crust, a 328-foot coastal strip with buildings sank to the bottom of the bay. Only the structures on the hillside remained above water. The submergence occurred in stages, in the 3rd and 4th century AD and later in the 7th and 8th centuries. A malaria outbreak eventually emptied the city, but today it serves as an underwater park where divers can explore the past of such a giant as ancient Rome. A Roman ship sank off the coast of Tuscany around 140 BC, but more than 2 millennia later, its contents not only remained intact, but also gave modern scientists and pharmacists valuable insight into the medicine of ancient Rome. After divers excavated the ruins and lifted the ship's remains from the seabed, they discovered astonishing historical artifacts inside a small tin container. Inside this box, Roman pills were perfectly preserved. A group of Italian chemists examined the pills and found a sophisticated blend of ingredients, zinc compounds with iron oxide starch, beeswax, pine resin, and other plant materials. It's believed that these pills were eye medicine, as descriptions of Roman medical practices written by ancient authors like Galen and Dioscorides have been found. Thanks to these pills, scientists have had the chance to study the exact composition and test whether ancient Roman medicine could perform miracles. Marine archaeologist Nicholas Fleming made a globally renowned discovery in 1967, the oldest submerged city, Pavlopetri. The underwater city in the Mediterranean is surprisingly well preserved, with its layout still clearly visible. Streets, buildings, courtyards, and tombs can be seen beneath the water. The entire city now lies at a depth of over 10 feet, extending over 540,000 square feet. Historians believed it thrived due to an active trade along the coast. Archaeologists have discovered at least 15 buildings with multiple rooms, as well as a complex water system and channels with pipes. Pavlopetri's history stretches back around 5,000 years, built in the ancient Bronze Age between 1000 and 3000 BC. Pavlopetri suffered from numerous earthquakes, which led to its submersion. More than 50 years after its discovery, scientists still have much work to do, but first they need permission from the Greek authorities to start excavations. On October 16, 2021, a recreational diver exploring the Mediterranean seabed discovered several historically significant artifacts. Among them was an unusual sword covered in shells and other marine organisms, making it hard to recognize its value at first. It was later revealed that the iron longsword was made 900 years ago, possibly belonging to a Crusader knight. Experts stated that the region where the sword was found was famous during the Crusades, a series of religious wars waged by European powers to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim rule. The sword was a straight blade, a classic example of a knight's weapon. The artifact was handed over to local authorities, where it now takes its rightful place in the Museum of Local History. A mysterious copper object was found off the coast of Florida, dating back to the 17th century, resembling a cauldron. Recent analysis showed that this copper bowl indeed looks like it was used for cooking. However, considering it was found near the wreck of the Spanish galleon Santa Margarita, a new story emerges. The ship, laden with gold and silver coins and ingots, sank in 1622 during a hurricane off the coast of Florida. This bowl could have been something valuable. Perhaps it served as a diving bell, used in early attempts to retrieve artifacts from the wreck. Diving bells were among the first devices for underwater exploration. They worked as air traps. The vessel was lowered into the water, and the diver could stay inside the bell, breathing the air that was captured while working on the seabed. The artifact now resides in the Maritime Museum in Florida, measuring nearly 5 feet in diameter, with no signs of burning or heating, ruling out the theory that it was used for cooking. The coast of Greece is famous for its discoveries. Among the finds of divers and marine archaeologists are items of ancient art and even ancient computers. The Antikythera mechanism used to calculate the movement of celestial bodies. It was discovered in 1901 from a sunken ancient ship. However, there are other artifacts found at the wreck site as well, such as bronze hands belonging to an ancient statue. Researchers believed that these fragments could be part of 9 statues that arrived here 2,000 years ago and remain undiscovered to this day. In 2015, Halifax resident John Krause was diving in the oceans off of Nova Scotia when he made an unexpected discovery. His find takes us back to the 1870s, the age of the bottle he found underwater. This means that the bottle is as old as Canada itself. The clear markings on the bottle points to one of Canada's oldest and most respected breweries, founded in 1820 by Scottish immigrant Alexander Keith. So it was reasonable to assume that beer still might be sloshing inside. When the bottle was found, it was almost full and still sealed. Researchers from Dalhousie University analyzed the contents and reported that, despite its age, the beer inside was still drinkable. Of course, no one dared to try the ancient liquid, even from such a famous brand. John decided to keep the bottle for himself and preserve it for posterity. How about you? Would you take a sip from this marinating beer from over 2 centuries ago? But if one bottle in the sea is a coincidence, a whole batch of goods is a drama. In 1917, during World War I, a time of political turmoil, the Swedish cargo ship Kuros was transporting a precious cargo destined for Russian aristocracy. The ships hold Slosh Elite spirits, fresh cognac, and Benedictine, a strong liquor made from sugar beets and honey. This luxurious cargo was bound for the court of Tsar Nicholas II, but a German submarine intercepted and sank the Kuros. The ship sank to the depth of nearly 250 feet and remained untouched for over a century. It wasn't until 2019 that the Ocean X team, led by Peter Lindbergh and Dennis Asberg, decided to find the historical stash. Despite the depth and cool temperature, the team made an unprecedented dive, bringing up around 900 bottles from over a century ago. Each bottle tells the story of a bygone era. The stash included 50 cases of cognac and 15 cases of liquor, which, despite the age, was still drinkable. Of course, few would risk tasting them, but their combined value is estimated at over $1 million. It's said that wine turns to poison after 100 years, but cognac doesn't spoil. There's also talk that aside from the bottles, the team found a mysterious huge disc on the seafloor, etched with geometric shapes, possibly of alien origin. But that's a story for another day. Now, let's talk about the second find by Ocean X. In the same year, the Swedish divers encountered an underwater anomaly in the Baltic. Their equipment began to fail, and the ship experienced electrical outages. They discovered a strange structure on the seafloor, a disc-shaped object around 200 feet in diameter, with a track leading away from it. It looked as if the disc had traveled along the seabed for some distance before stopping at a depth of around 300 feet. Suspecting it might not be a natural formation, the divers tried to get close, but the object suddenly began interfering. All cameras and satellite phones failed. Oddly enough, the devices resumed working once they moved away from the object. The unusual shape and strange occurrences led to theories and rumors that the disc was a crashed UFO. Some thought it was an ancient relic from the Ice Age, or maybe an underwater alien base. The strange object found on the seabed doesn't look like anything. It's not a plant or a rock, and certainly not a sunken ship. The only thing that comes to mind is a flying saucer, the researchers say. Scientists studied samples and suggested it might be a natural geological formation or volcanic rock, but its exact origin remains unknown. This underwater graveyard is located around 1,000 miles northwest of New Guinea and the western Pacific Ocean. It seems like this lagoon, a small part of Micronesia, was lost land that could have lived its own isolated life. But its turbulent history began with the arrival of the Spanish in 1528. Even then, Spanish colonizers officially claimed the territory. In 1899, the land was transferred to Germany, and then, after defeat in World War I, Japan gained ownership, and a Japanese naval base was established there. The formidable fleet, including battleships, aircraft carriers, and submarines, filled the natural landscape. In February 1944, the U.S. launched Operation Hailstone, a massive 2-day attack on the lagoon, including continuous air raids that sank over 40 Japanese ships and destroyed 250 planes. The devastation was enormous, claiming the lives of thousands of Japanese soldiers and sailors. Today, all that remains of the ghostly fleet is an underwater graveyard of ships and active currents in the area. However, divers who descend to the location often return with eerie feelings from stories of the ocean. They report sudden temperature drops, mysterious currents, and the feeling of being watched. Some even claim to have seen the ghosts of sailors. We don't know if this is true, but this location and the events connected are still being discussed. In 2020, divers were on a routine mission. They were tasked with cleaning abandoned fishing nets on the bottom of the Baltic Sea, which posed significant threat to marine life. However, when they stumbled upon rust-covered seaweed, they realized that this dive had rewarded them with something far greater. Before their eyes was an invention that looked like a vintage typewriter. At the time, they didn't know that they had found a rare World War II artifact, a cipher machine called Enigma. It was used by the Nazis to encrypt messages within military communications. Enigma was considered an engineering marvel of its time. The device is considered the most complex encryption machine in human history. Its creator, Arthur Scherbius, is a doctor of technical sciences who patented the invention and then sold it under the same brand name. The device is considered the most complex encryption machine in human history, with the number of symbol combinations reaching an intimidating figure of 159 quintillion. To decipher these messages, the receiving side needed another Enigma machine with its rotor wheels set in the same positions. This complex system allowed German troops to safely transmit secret information. Hackers, led by British mathematician Alan Turing, eventually cracked the code of this particular machine, and historians managed to establish the chronology of events. The machine was likely used on a German warship. The device was thrown overboard on May 1945 when German forces scuttled their ships to prevent them from falling into the hands of the anti-fascist Allies. Ancient wooden ships not only carried people, but also cargo, cats, and rats, but, worst of all, hosted its very own parasites, wood-eating worms. Looking at this giant worm, it's not hard to imagine it feasting on someone's ship for a long time. Scientists discovered this bizarre creature in the Philippines. For some, it's fascinating science fiction, but for most people, it's a hellish nightmare. Before you turn away, it's worth noting that it's unfair to call this a worm. It's actually a type of mollusk. For centuries, this species had a tough diet. They diligently chewed through wood ships and docks. However, this giant evolved in a completely unexpected direction. Previously, only lifeless specimens were found, but this inhabitant of the southern waters in the Philippines was found alive in a harbor filled with rotting wood and other debris. Such conditions allowed these strange creatures to thrive and grow so incredibly large on a sulfur diet. Apart from wood, its habitat was rich in hydrogen sulfide. You know, the toxic gas that smells of rotten eggs. It seems that these creatures adapted to such environments and learned to extract nutrients from what was abundant around them. Scientists also found that giant shipworms act as symbiotic bacteria, oxidizing hydrogen sulfide and feeding on hydrocarbon compounds, which they themselves produce through symbiosis. That's what allowed them to grow to such enormous sizes. How would you feel sailing across the ocean on a ship, knowing that such a monster was traveling in the hull with you? Write in the comments below. In 2023, Japanese diver Yosuke Tanaka and his wife had an incredible experience during a cold January dive near the town of Toyooka. Despite the warning by local fishing gear traders about the sighting of a massive sea creature in the waters, they decided to take the plunge, hoping to encounter the mysterious ocean dweller. To their surprise, their hopes were realized. They managed to capture close-up footage of a giant squid, a creature rarely seen near human habitats. Even if they encountered a smaller representative of its species, it's important to note that these squids can grow up to 43 feet long or more. Typically, they live at the great depths of over 1,000 to 2,000 feet, where sunlight barely reaches, and they remain practically invisible. The Japanese couple was incredibly lucky to meet one of these fantastic animals in shallow water. The mystery remains. How did this giant squid end up here? Unfortunately, it's likely by that point, its life was already coming to an end. In a weakened state, it ventured close to the surface. Nevertheless, the encounter will remain unforgettable for the divers. In 2017, a diver off the coast of Australia encountered a creature that looked like a transparent corrugated tube. Even researchers were baffled when they first saw this structure. It resembled an alien creature. However, a more thorough inspection and analysis by marine biologists revealed that this glowing mass was actually a colony of cuttlefish eggs. Such encounters are rare, and this tube can grow up to 6.5 feet in length. One colony contains 1,000 eggs, and the pinkish glow is caused by pigment-containing and light-reflecting cells called chromatophores. The The colony can move freely, so now you know. If you see something like this in the open ocean, it's not dangerous. Even more fascinating than the giant squid itself is its methods of reproduction. A massive egg floating in a bubble can also look like an alien creature. In reality, we're seeing a sac in which juveniles will hatch, proving just how enormous these creatures are. Its size is comparable of that of a human adult. On October 6, 2019, diver Ronald Roche from a Norwegian research vessel captured this giant object on camera. His group was exploring the area in search of World War II artifacts, looking for shipwreck traces off the coast of Norway, when they encountered the giant egg at a depth of 50 feet. Such a bubble can contain 50 to 200,000 juvenile squids, securely packed in a gelatinous sphere. This gives them a chance to grow until they can swim and feed independently. The sac is made of a mixture of squid ink and mucus, a protective environment for the developing embryos. The discovery was especially exciting for marine biologists, as it's rare to observe this process in real time. Can you imagine a jellyfish larger than a diver? Once again, the ocean proves to us that it is the most terrifying place on Earth. Imagine swimming underwater at depth, and if you make one careless move, you could immediately put yourself in danger. What if you saw a giant creature swimming nearby? Encountering an animal in the wild is an unpredictable scenario. That's exactly what marine biologist and Wildlife Channel host Lizzie Daly experienced during a dive off the coast of the United Kingdom. The woman diver and her friend were taking photos to attract the attention of their followers, and in an unlikely way, they succeeded. The barrel jellyfish, over 5 feet long, swam next to the diver for over an hour, making for an unforgettable experience. This type of jellyfish weighs over 66 pounds, and its head measured more than 6 feet in diameter. Such a jellyfish is rarely seen off the coasts of England. It normally lives deep below, but due to warm weather, plankton flourished in shallow waters, which attracted the giant jellyfish. In reality, they are harmless to humans. Even if one stings you, you probably wouldn't feel a thing. However, it's best to keep a safe distance for any wild animals, even if they don't appear aggressive. Among the ocean dwellers, special attention should be given to the astonishing sunfish. This species, called Mola alexandrini, is quite unmistakable due to its bizarre appearance. But did you know that this almost round, massive body can weigh more than 2 tons? Yes, this is the heaviest bony fish in the world. This species is related to the ocean sunfish, known as mola mola. The sunfish looks similar but has its own features. It can grow up to 10 feet long and has a noticeable bump on its head. The species inhabits warmer parts of the ocean, and these fish are often seen near the surface, basking in the sun. These creatures are known as gentle giants, which pose no threat to humans. Therefore, swimming next to them is pure enjoyment, even for a novice diver. Alongside large marine animals such as sharks, rays, and even whales, remoras, also known as shark suckers, often travel. They use the suction cups on their head to attach themselves to their host, hitching a ride across the ocean and feeding on the leftovers from their host's meal. Generally, large fish don't mind. The relationship between remoras and sharks is known as mutualism, or in layman's terms, a mutually beneficial relationship. In exchange for the leftovers, the shark receives free cleaning of its skin and mouth from parasites. The remora is a massage therapist, skin specialist, and dentist for the predator. It's a personal support staff. However, it seems this remora got its address wrong. In 2017, a diver in coral reefs found a remora had attached itself to him. The diver didn't realize what was happening at first. Acting on instinct, the fish mistook the diver for a shark or another large creature. It simply perceives the size and movement and doesn't think for too long. Coral reefs are a popular spot to encounter them, so if you see a remora near you, don't worry that a predator might be nearby. Remoras are harmless to humans, and if they try to attach themselves to you, it'll just feel ticklish, that's all. Do you know how whales sleep? It's said that the largest land animals, elephants, sleep standing up. Whales also need rest, but they must breathe underwater while they sleep. Sometimes divers are lucky enough to encounter a group of whales sleeping in the middle of the ocean. They also sleep in vertical positions, heads up. This may look strange, but unlike humans, they can't afford to be in a completely unconscious state. Their type of sleep is known as unihemispheric slow wave sleep. This allows one hemisphere of the brain to rest while the other remains active. In other words, one half of their brain stays awake, controlling breathing and staying aware of potential danger, while the other gets a full rest. Plus, this position allows them to quickly surface for air. Usually, whales sleep in 20-minute intervals, coming up for a fresh breath, and this process continues for over several hours. If divers hadn't captured this sight, we would never have believed that it's possible. Air travel is known to be faster and more reliable, but for cost reasons, most of our cargo travels by sea. What do you think of this? Several divers reportedly discover a giant cargo ship underwater filled with dozens of luxury cars. Statistically, around 1,560 containers are lost at sea each year, and it's no surprise that accidents can result in millions of dollars in losses, considering the values of the cars that sank into the abyss. Unfortunately, restoring them is impossible. Ancient wrecks are valuable, but luxury cars underwater turns into scrap metal. Again and again, the ocean continues to prove its dominance. What do you think of the photo? Would you dive down to take one of them for a ride? If your phone falls into the ocean, chances are you'll never see it again, unless of course you have a professional diver among your friends. However, a phone that's been in the water is unlikely to function as it did before, but there are exceptions. A diver named Alex was part of a large cleanup campaign located in South Florida in the Boca Raton. During the underwater cleanup, he found a phone at the bottom and realized that it was in a waterproof case. Alex was used to finding all sorts of objects, but was surprised to see that this iPhone remained in perfect condition. Upon returning to the office, Alex tried to charge it and was delighted that the phone turned on. Using the emergency contact from the screen, he found the owner's mother and called to deliver the good news. She explained that her son had lost it a few days ago while fishing with his father, but had already given up in finding the phone. That day, Alex managed to do more than one good deed. Besides the iPhone, he saved hundreds of marine animals that had been affected by trash in the ocean.
However, in my opinion, the most mysterious thing about the world's ocean is its deepest point, namely the Mariana Trench. It is incredible how deep it is. No one ever dreamed of or was able to reach it before. But technology and science do not stand still, and now we will look at 20 mysterious things and monsters found in the Mariana Trench.
Let's begin with the most inexplicable incident. When scientists first heard this strange noise coming from the depths of the Mariana Trench, they were a little frightened. How could a metallic scraping sound exist in such a place? It resembled the sound made by port cranes swaying in the wind. The signal was first captured in 2016 by an autonomous vessel navigating the ultra-deep waters of the Mariana Trench. It also sounded like a low-frequency moan, usually associated with whales, but this specific sound had never been heard before. While it was attributed to whales, scientists nevertheless tried to identify it. They recalled that back in 1997, the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration detected a high-amplitude infrasound beneath the water's surface. It was so powerful that it was heard over a distance of more than 3,000 miles. At the time, the source of this sound remained a complete mystery for many years. Initially, investigators suggested that the sound might have been produced by some kind of marine animals, although, frankly, such a loud signal would have to come from a creature the size of an island. Naturally, this disturbed everyone, to say the least. Later, this idea was replaced by a more mundane explanation, which remains the accepted theory today, that the sound resulted from the movement of glaciers or the fall of a large iceberg somewhere far away. Perhaps you have some knowledge or guesses about this. Do not hesitate to share them with us in the comments. Let's explore the animal world of the deepest place on Earth, starting with the simplest creatures that have grown to impressive sizes here. Back in 2011, during an expedition to the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean, scientists discovered several eerie giant amoebas in the depths. They are called xenophyophores, and they are the largest single-celled organisms in nature. But they have a number of other distinctive features. For instance, their cells contain large amounts of lead, mercury, and uranium, heavy metals that are extremely toxic to other living beings. Researchers used all kinds of new technologies to study these previously unseen creatures. They were so large that they reached up to 10 centimeters in size. Can you imagine a cell of such a size? Scientists declared these to be the largest individual cells that exist anywhere, at least as far as is known today. These creatures were discovered as deep as 11,000 meters below the ocean's surface, in the deepest part of the Mariana Trench. Before this discovery, they had only been found at a depth of 8,000 meters. How many more unsolved mysteries remain hidden in this amazing part of the planet? Now it's time for some incomprehensible creatures. Are they plants or animals? Let's find out. The deep sea undoubtedly contains many creepy creatures and strange-looking fish, as well as traces of dramatic shipwrecks. But who knows what is happening on the seabed, in the dark and mysterious places untouched by humans? Let me tell you, among the deep sea dwellers, there are even dangerous trees. This plant is called the ping pong tree because it looks like a trunk adorned with white table tennis balls. It sounds quite harmless, but it is actually not a plant, but a carnivorous sponge. Its stem reaches about half a meter in height, and at the top, there is a cluster of these strange balls growing in all directions. They may look fragile and transparent, but these things are deadly. They are covered in tiny spines shaped like hooks that trap any small creature that barely touches them. Once trapped, the victim is forced to remain in the sponge's clutches forever, as the balls slowly digest their prey, molecule by molecule. What do you think? Is this an animal or a plant? Crinoids are bottom-dwelling animals with a sedentary lifestyle. Those attached to the seabed by a stem are often called sea lilies. There are species capable of freely traveling along the bottom in search of food. Fossil remains of crinoids have been found in many places, and they show that the stem holding onto the seabed forms the foundation of the feeding system, a sort of arm. The petals capture food particles, which then linger in the water for a while before heading to the mouth of the feeding system. Most modern crinoids swim freely, also known as feather stars. They simply do not want to stay in one place and do not use the stem attachment when fully grown. Naturally, moving around is much more exciting, although it is often dictated by the current, but they can sometimes even climb to higher ground to feed better. These strange marine creatures do not look entirely alive. It's even odd to see them move like living things. But believe me, they can reach speeds of 3 to 5 centimeters per second, which seems like Formula One speed for such a small, plant-like creature without a distinguishable head or obvious fins. Fossils of sea lilies dating back 480 million years have been discovered, and it seems some of these fossilized versions could survive by attaching themselves to floating debris. Modern crinoids live on rocks and weak ocean currents, and rarely migrate across the abyssal expanses. Surely you are waiting to encounter deep-sea monsters. We have an image, most likely taken during some deep-sea expedition to the remote corners of the Mariana Trench. This is the deepest part of the ocean on the planet, shaped like a crescent and stretching about 2,500 kilometers in length, reaching depths of nearly 11,000 meters. Undoubtedly, all kinds of creatures live there that we have never encountered before. But can we really say that in this photo, we see something resembling a dinosaur? The image shocked the world, and it seems this thing is terribly convincing. What if such creatures lived here before or continue to hide to this day? There is a category of animals that cannot be classified as unicellular but are not jellyfish either. However, their evolutionary results deserve special attention. Comb jellies are a common type of marine animal, but they look very peculiar. Their distinctive feature is the combs made of cilia that they use to swim at depth under great pressure. Their sizes can vary from a few millimeters to 1.5 meters. Interestingly, they provided scientists with special insights into the evolutionary path of other animals, including us. Sounds strange, but this extravagant species is slightly connected to humans. Comb jellies can help researchers study the evolution of the nervous system. Unlike humans, they do not have a brain, but their nerve cells are connected across their bodies like a web. Although they look like jellyfish, They are actually unrelated. These two different types followed completely different evolutionary paths. Today, climate change forces these creatures to struggle for survival. But if they suddenly find themselves in comfortable conditions, they instantly dominate and quickly destroy the diversity of species around them. Quite like humans, right? The giant amphipod, a large and terrifying isopod crustacean. Just look at its size. There is no better character to bring your nightmares to life with new intensity. During the exploration of the Mariana Trench, scientists had their share of horror when they sent traps for samples to the deepest regions. Previously, we had only seen distant relatives of these giant crustaceans, and of course, no one expected to encounter specimens of monstrous scale. In fact, these shrimps are 20 times larger than similar species that inhabit coastal waters, and it's unclear how they manage to live at such depths. Perhaps the point is that shrimp are bottom scavengers, and the larger the other inhabitants, the more massive the ocean's janitors must be to clean up the remains of other animals. Now we come to familiar outlines: octopuses, squids, and other marine creatures. However, they will appear in quite unusual forms. The Dumbo octopus, or Grimpeteuthis, inhabits the deepest and darkest layers of the ocean, with some specimens of this species even found at a depth of 7,000 meters. This means these animals are adapted to life in very cold water without sunlight. The rare Dumbo octopus resembles a blimp with tentacles or a floating mini elephant. Certain behavioral traits help it find a mate and successfully reproduce when options are limited. If the number of candidates is small, creativity is a must. The Dumbo octopus female is very resourceful. When she encounters a male, she accepts his sperm to use when her eggs are ready. You never know when you might find another eligible bachelor 1,000 or more kilometers away in the dark. This unique ability to store collected sperm for a long time after mating allows for planned reproduction. The female regulates the process of successful reproduction. Perhaps these capabilities inspired modern reproductive medicine. Amphitrite. This is the name of the world's only telescopic octopus. This amazing type of deep-sea octopus is found at depths ranging from 150 to 2,000 meters in the tropical and subtropical waters of the Indo-Pacific region. They typically grow up to 20 centimeters in length, and their bodies are so transparent that they are almost invisible in the water. They appear almost glass-like there. The transparent and jelly-like flesh casts virtually no shadow, which could warn predators or prey of their presence. Telescopic octopuses can make nearly their entire bodies invisible, except for their eyes and digestive gland. It is precisely because of their telescopic eyes that this octopus got its name. Its ocular organs are essentially on stalks that protrude from its head. Quite a handy adaptation given their environment. The vampire squid, despite its name, does not seem to be a squid, an octopus, or even a bloodsucker. It is also called the hellish vampire, or even worse, the hellish vampire squid. But it is not a monster. It is merely a small, deep-sea cephalopod that inhabits depths ranging from 600 to 900 meters worldwide at temperatures of about 2 to 3 degrees Celsius. Yes, it is quite cold. It was named a vampire due to its coloring, which resembles Dracula's red and black cloak, and its fins, which give it a bat-like face. Its eyes are genuinely creepy, with a red hue. Unfortunately, vampire squids are on the verge of extinction due to pollution and the destruction of their habitats. Unlike other squids, they do not change their body color or release ink when threatened. Instead, they emit a glowing, sticky mucus that works similarly to confuse potential predators. Remember, not everything frightening comes brightly dressed. Let's move on to unusual fish that can only be found at great and in the greatest depths. The snailfish resembles a snail from the side, a catfish from the top, and a hamburger from the front. It's strange how it manages to survive at such depths. Theoretically, such a design should never survive there, let alone thrive. Scientists studying snailfish believed it was physiologically impossible for a normal fish to live below 8,000 meters. However, researchers from Japan and Australia discovered a snailfish at a depth of 8,336 meters in the Mariana Trench, breaking all previous records. These fish look defiant, but since they usually live in darkness where nothing else exists, what do they care about their appearance? The conger eel, another fish resembling a slug but longer, more akin to an eel. This large fish from the Ophiiform family inhabits complete darkness at extreme depths. and is also known as the shrimp fish. It is another contender for the title of the world's deepest living fish. Bony fishes are called eels due to their appearance, but they actually belong to the same group as tuna and perch. Their varieties have existed since the end of the Cretaceous period, and fossilized species were discovered long ago, meaning they are very well adapted to deep-sea life. Congers live in temperate and tropical waters, sticking close to the bottom, also appearing at record depths exceeding 8,000 meters. Another floating blimp, but this time neither an octopus nor a jellyfish, but a barreleye fish. It looks very strange, and it seems that the deeper we explore the ocean, the more bizarre marine creatures become. The barreleye fish is one such oddity, suitable for a starring role in a science fiction movie. It has a transparent head in the shape of a dome with very sensitive tubular eyes covered by a green liquid shield. This is quite beautiful, but mainly, this eye structure helps it spot prey above, even while swimming in total darkness. It also has a pair of nostrils that could be mistaken for sad eyes and a pointed snout with a small mouth. Its elongated fins help it move while staying almost motionless, and its body contains a set of glowing organs, giving the fish an otherworldly glow. The barreleye fish, like a modern submarine, is perfectly adapted to its deep-sea habitat. While other deep-sea animals lack sharp vision, the barreleye is perfectly equipped to navigate even in darkness, a great advantage for finding food and avoiding predators. Let's move on to the big and small monsters that belong in the hidden corners of the ocean. The hatchetfish truly resembles a tool for cutting steaks. This deep-sea inhabitant of the tropical and subtropical waters of the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans includes about 45 different species, varying in size, with a maximum length of 9 centimeters. They also possess bioluminescent capabilities, a trait shared by many deep-sea creatures. They use it to create counter-illumination to evade predators. When viewed from below, the flat body of the hatchetfish is almost invisible in the water, another element of camouflage. There is also a species of freshwater hatchetfish often kept in home aquariums. But these captivating deep-sea dwellers, shaped like dangerous axe blades, do look intimidating, don't they? The black sea devil, a creepy deep-sea inhabitant, has certainly earned its terrifying name. First, it looks like a proper monster, and second, it displays remarkable cunning to capture its prey, with an antenna at the front of its head that glows in the dark like a light bulb. This distracts its prey. As we know, naive little fish are drawn to light, and there's no escaping the predator's horrible teeth once they get close. These fish have round, gelatinous bodies without scales, enormous heads, and many sharp, long teeth resembling fangs. Some even have spines on their bodies. The black sea devil is also called the anglerfish and primarily lives near the seabed. Its personal light source is essential. Anglerfish are incredibly effective hunters. Their razor-sharp teeth can cut through anything, and their enormous mouths can swallow large pieces of food. Moreover, their mouths can expand like an excavator's bucket. These terrifying sea creatures can swallow prey twice their size. When a marine animal dies, a massive natural cleaning crew goes to work on the remains at the bottom of the ocean. Many bottom dwellers will feast on the carcass of a dead animal for days. The body of a massive whale becomes a feast for thousands of other tiny marine creatures. And it's not so grim. They will clean the remains down to the skeleton, maintaining the balance of nature. The animal world operates on the principle of returning to the circle. To sustain life, whales themselves consume vast amounts of food and later become food for many others. Several different species of whales, including humpbacks, blue whales, and fin whales, feed through a system that involves swallowing large volumes of water along with their prey. They then spout the water back out, retaining the prey inside. They dive to depths of around 200 meters to feed primarily on krill, though these massive mammals are adaptable and also eat other fish. They have a refined technique for getting a satisfying meal. A group of whales surrounds a school of fish, swimming in circles to create a spiral of bubbles that forces the fish into a convenient dense mass, an easy bundle to swallow in one go. You've likely wondered, if the remains of dead animals are consumed by marine cleaners, who takes care of the skeletons? Surely they don't accumulate in such large quantities at the bottom of the oceans. We have an answer to this question. A type of deep-sea creature endearingly called zombie worms are professionals at cleaning the seabed of bones. They were first discovered at a depth of about 3,000 meters. It's there that they can find the carcasses of dead whales, whose bones they absolutely love devouring, as horrifying as that sounds. But nature is organized in such a way. Everyone has their own food, and everyone enjoys eating what's meant for them. These worms use their unique physiology to penetrate the bones and access the lipids found inside. They feed on the collagen in the bones and drill holes throughout the skeletal structure. Later, they use these holes to hide from potential predators, those we've already seen, flesh eaters who don't care whether a worm is useful or not and might as well gulp it down. Although the fish with the frightening name black dragon reaches only about 15 centimeters in length, it still makes an intimidating impression. In the deep, dark ocean, it truly becomes a sea monster for another tiny creature. Each category has its own monsters. These fierce predators are known for their terrifying jaws and blade-like teeth, which allow them to consume prey almost half their own size. These ghastly teeth and lifeless eyes make the fish quite scary, and what places it firmly in the nightmare category is its ability to be invisible. Only the long appendage extending from its chin glows in the dark, serving as a lure. Waving and blinking, the appendage draws other fish close, where they are instantly caught by its powerful jaws. The teeth of these fish are completely transparent and blend with the water. A true horror, though small in size, it leaves a significant impression. The goblin shark, a dreadful combination of predator and horror movie character. Its terrifying appearance and bloodthirsty behavior have rightly earned it its revolting name. But not all animals should be judged by their looks alone. That would be unfair. Let's find out if these sharks with long, flat noses and a set of very sharp teeth are truly as frightening as they seem. This shark is equipped with a unique hunting feature for deep-sea life. It has a specialized jaw structure. During a lunge, it can protrude its jaws forward to snatch passing prey and then retract its mouth back, prey in tow. Creepy, isn't it? In fact, the long-nosed shark is much lazier than other species. Its sluggish behavior means it's unlikely to expend much energy on high-speed chases. Looking at this strange fish, you will undoubtedly feel disgust and fear. But we're already moving on. Onward! Perhaps the frilled shark has claimed the title of the most terrifying creature of the deep today. This species is essentially a living fossil, which is why it looks so frightening, like a relic from the era of monsters, from the time of dinosaurs. And that's exactly what it is. An ancient species of shark, though very rare, still exists today, occasionally threatening people with its extremely intimidating appearance and shark-like habits. Observing such sharks is an incredibly rare event, and catching one alive is perhaps the only precedent. A typical resident of the deepest parts of the planet was captured alive by fishermen in an Australian lake. It was so unusual that the event made headlines. Imagine that this strange shark, with its frill-like appearance, has existed for at least 80 million years. The frilled shark gets its name from the 6 pairs of gills that make its head look more like an eel or a sea serpent than other sharks. Now let's talk about the largest discovery at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. But it's not a sea creature, it's a sunken ship. This is the story of the world's deepest shipwreck, the American destroyer Johnston, which took part in a major naval battle in Leyte Gulf, located in the Philippine Sea Bay. In October 1944, this battle involved 300 American warships fighting against 70 Japanese vessels with 1,500 aircraft in the air. Can you imagine the scale? The battle raged in the air, on the water, and underwater. Nearly 30 Japanese ships were sunk during the battle, and most of the others were so damaged they were put out of service. The largest battleship at the time, Yamato, was also among the sunken vessels. The United States lost the destroyer Johnston during this brutal battle. It was struck by shells from the Yamato, but it managed to fight on for another 2 hours before sinking. 186 out of 327 crew members went down with the ship, and for 75 years after the incident, the ship was not seen again. Samar Island, near where the battle took place in the Philippines, lies along a deep-sea trench called the Philippine Trench, which is extremely deep, about 10,500 meters. To illustrate the scale, imagine placing Mount Everest into this trench. Its peak would still be submerged under 1.5 kilometers of water. For comparison, the Titanic, after sinking, rested at a depth of 3,800 meters. The Johnston, a record holder for depth among sunken ships, was found during a special expedition using a submersible at a depth of nearly 6,500 meters. 2/3 of the ship's hull were still intact, and the identification number was clearly visible. This was one of the most dramatic scenes of destruction and sinking in the history of warfare, hopefully the last of its kind.
Well, that brings our hour-long show to an end. If you liked it and you want to see the next part or something similar, then let me know about it in the comments. Leave likes, subscribe to the channel, and right now write the keyword rocket in the comments. That way I will know you watched until the very end. Thank you all very much for watching, and next, take a look at one of the 2 videos that have appeared.